Okay guys, be honest, who wears a cowboy hat better, Idris Elba or this guy? Okay listen, I said be honest, but you didn't have to be that honest, mamma mia. What's going on, you guys? James here with another real review, and today we're taking a look at Concrete Cowboy, debuting exclusively on Netflix April 2nd. Thank you so much to Netflix for giving me the chance to watch this because, guys, it has been my radar ever since I learned about the cast and I saw the trailer. Count me all the way in. It's directed by Staub and stars McLaughlin, Idris Elba, Lorraine Toussaint, and Jharrel, Jerome. Listen, you had me at McLaughlin, and now you got Idris, you got Lorraine, and you got Jharrel, Jerome. Come on, guys, this is just an all-star cast. Now, the film does work so well in moments, but I'll tell you whether or not it's a complete experience. Now, before we get into that, guys, if it's your first time here at the channel, welcome to Real James, where I talk about movies really like this all the time. So if you don't want to miss out on huge videos that we have coming up this month and next, go ahead and hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, and tap on the bell so you don't miss out. Smash that like button and get loud in the comments and let me know what you think of this film when you see it. Did it work for you, or were there things that held it back from being a great movie? Alrighty, guys, so let's dive into Concrete Cowboy if you don't know much about the film itself. The story surrounds a teenager named Cole who is getting in trouble back in his hometown of Detroit, so his mother decides to move him up with his father in Philadelphia for the summer. But sooner than later, Cole finds out that his father is a part of an all-black group of cowboys called the Fletcher Street Riders, who are just trying to keep their heritage alive at all costs. Now, this movie does some things really well, starting with the fact that it gives the spotlight to the Fletcher Street Riders in Philadelphia, but on a grander scale, it gives much deserved attention to black cowboys. In movies and in my life personally, a cowboy was always depicted to me as a white man, and it sucks because as I grew up, I learned that there was a lack of love shown to black men and women who are cowboys. And in this film, it beautifully represents a group of cowboys in Philadelphia that really are fighting tooth and nail just to preserve their stable, their heritage, and their family. Because the thing is, family, as they talk about in this film, isn't just blood. Sometimes it's the family you choose. And I love that those themes trickle their way into this story, and I can tell you guys that there are moments that actually were really close to moving me to tears. And the film feels so authentic, and it's beautifully shot and directed by Staub. Minka Farthing Cole is the director of photography here, or the cinematographer, however you want to call it. But man, the way that they're able to frame certain shots, how beautiful and majestic the horseback riding scenes look. Honestly, from the opening frame, I knew that this film was going to have a certain amount of appeal that was going to speak to me. There's an art house vibe to this as well. This movie does implement a lot of different filmmaking techniques, and it does so well for the most part. I really love how this film was able to just capture the silent moments. The quieter scenes in here just look beautiful, and they actually captivated me a lot more than some of the louder scenes in this film. And at its core, this is a Western movie, guys, and props to director Staub for keeping this film grounded, allowing scenes to breathe, which it so desperately needed, because there are some high moments of intensity, and then afterwards the come down allows you to really understand what the day-to-day is for the Fletcher Street Riders. Now, of course, I'm sure you guys are wondering about the acting, and I need to tell y'all that McLaughlin is clearly the lead, and he is well deserving of this role. He nails the dramatic scenes in this film. Honestly, his acting is just so much more than Lucas from Stranger Things, and I'm glad this film will hopefully give him the recognition he deserves, and future lead roles will start to find their way to him. He is so darn good in this film, and what really helps is that when he was crying, I felt for him. It didn't seem fake, or it didn't seem ingenuine. You can tell he was pouring out his blood, sweat, and tears into this performance. And I love his chemistry with Jerome, who plays Smush, a troublemaker but a childhood friend. Now, if you guys have seen Jerome in previous works, you know he can act, but both of them together, man, their excellence was off the charts in so many scenes. There's one that takes place in a tunnel, and I totally bought into it. And when it comes to McLaughlin's character, I love how we could see Cole grow over time to become less timid and more trustworthy, both with people and with his horse, Boo. Some of those moments were just so pure. And guys, I don't think any other actor could have stepped into this role and did what McLaughlin did in this movie. I'm trying to find the right words, but let me tell you guys, there's something beautiful about his performance here. Idris Elba is also being billed as the lead here, and we'll talk more about him in a bit, but for now, let's just say he is solid alongside McLaughlin and the other cast members, but there's a narrative issue that holds his performance back from being one of the stronger performances in the movie. And speaking of the supporting cast, guys, they're pretty solid, and it was wonderful to learn about how some of our cast are actual members of the Fletcher Street Riders. Jamil Prattis and Ivana Mercedes bring this sort of genuine genuine approach to the film, and now I understand why their performances felt so authentic. It's only because we see them doing what they do in real life anyway, and I love their testimonies at the end during the credits. And there's one scene that might be the strongest of the film with Jamil Prattis, who plays Paris, and Paris explains how he ended up in a wheelchair. It captivated me, it moved me to tears, and Caleb McLaughlin for some reason was doing so much acting with his eyes and how he was responding to the story, and it just worked so well for me. So yeah, there's this tinge of authenticity that the film has that is just amazing. Now, even though this film looks beautiful, it has some good performances from our cast and a story that is definitely worth telling, the movie doesn't always execute well from start to finish. Like I mentioned a little while ago, there's a huge narrative issue here where the movie's trying to tell us how to feel, it just never earns some of those more dramatic moments that we get in the third act. When it comes to the angle of Cole and his father Harp, who's played by Idris Elba, this should have been the central focus of the movie. Instead, the film gives us breadcrumbs along the way, and I don't think that at the end, everything crescendoed like it wanted to. In that final moment, you'll know what I'm talking about when you get there, just didn't really hit for me, I think, in the way that it should have. And that's due in large part because the story invests its time elsewhere with Cole and his friend Smush and the trouble they get into. And there were so many cutaways from the main story to the subplot and back and forth. It was just a jarring experience, and it took me out of the moment way too often. Alright, so it's finally time to talk about Idris Elba. I love him as an actor, and here he does his best with the limited time he gets with Caleb McLaughlin, and it's unfortunate to say, but the script does him a disservice in this movie. Each moment seemed a little too pedestrian for me, and when we do get sprinkles of background story as to why Cole hates his dad, it almost feels like too little, too late. In one scene, we get all of the character development for Idris Elba, and it's through a monologue. It's lazy writing, honestly, and I'm not the biggest fan of expositional dialogue, so we should have got more show don't tell with these characters, and instead, Idris Elba's performance is held back by the script. And when we do get some much needed screen time with Harp and Cole, it comes at the very end. It made me shake my head because I wanted to get more of what we were seeing, but instead they had to sandwich it in at the end there, and it just made me so frustrated because we should have gotten that throughout the entire course of the second half of the movie. And the second half of this movie overall was just wildly inconsistent, and eventually it felt like the film dragged by the end. I know I said it before and I'll say it again, this film is beautifully shot, but sometimes I think the filmmaking dominates the acting on screen. I don't think the film needed to get cute with angles, weird usage of focus and lenses, and a crazy amount of shaky cam to get its point across. The story is powerful on its own, and I wish they would have just committed to that bare bones approach that we got in the first half of the film. So overall, you guys, Concrete Cowboy on Netflix is not your typical Western, and that's a good thing. You should check it out this weekend if you're looking for a story that is not your typical cowboy movie, and I love that approach, honestly, by the director, the writer, and the cast involved. I think this story deserves to be told, and it is beautiful in the way it's shot, in the way it's expressed, and there's a powerhouse performance here by Caleb McLaughlin that is something that is worth the price of admission alone. And I say all that while still recognizing that Idris Elba was a little misused and that surrounding cast felt a little too generic too often for this to feel like a complete experience. And for as much as I love seeing Jerome act on screen, I think his character was involved with the main storyline a little too much, which took the emphasis away from that father-son dynamic that would have put this movie over the top for me. So yes, Concrete Cowboy is a movie that tugged on my heartstrings, and it does have some beautiful moments, but there are one too many flaws for it to stand tall with some of the best films of this year. So there you have it, you guys. That's my real review of Concrete Cowboy, but I want to know what you guys have to say about this film. So go ahead and get loud in the comments below when you watch it this weekend. And hey, if you haven't already, smash that big red button below and subscribe to the channel so you can get more reviews just like this. Guys, this has been a blast. I am having so much fun with this cowboy hat, and I need to probably retire it. Should I retire it? Nah. Alrighty, y'all. Again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening.